Alright, so I have my M1 here, right next to my goosky S1. Now, I may confuse these two in the video, but these names are just getting pretty confusing nowadays, even with different brands. Well, anyways, I want to show you what you get in the box. I want to show you some flight characteristics and just kind of point out the differences between the two, and just things that they've corrected over time, and pretty much brings both of them up to speed. So let me show you how they come in the box, and then we'll jump right into the helicopter. All right, so you have the M1 in the ready to fly package. You get the styrofoam box as you would on the S1. You get the helicopter, screwdriver, little owner's manual. You get 2 battery packs, one pre-installed in the helicopter and one on the side, like as you see here. I have a little few extra goodies in here just because this is my go-to helicopter flying outdoors when I'm using a micro, because this is something I've really invested a lot into as far as parts go, because you always want to have a helicopter that you can fly and crash and not really mind it. Now, I could do the same with the S1, but then I already had started with this M1. But here, this is how you get the S1 if you get the ready to fly version of it. I mean, you get the goosky radio. It looks pretty nice. It flies pretty well. I like that I love that the sticks are pretty short, especially because I fly with thumbs. I don't really pinch, and it makes it easier for myself when I'm flying indoors too or outdoors. And it's cool that they provide a USB, a portable charger. You can just connect it anywhere and just charge anywhere and just fly. I mean, being that both of these helicopters are way below 250 grams, you can fly anywhere. No one can tell you anything. I mean, I'm not saying you can fly into someone's face or, be unsafe with it and hit someone's child, or chase animals, whatever the case is. But for the most part, you can fly this anywhere you feel you have a safe space, and you have full control of the helicopter, aircraft, whatever you may want to call it. But yeah, I mean, these things are pretty wild when you're flying 3D, and they get up to speed pretty quick. So this is how you get the S1. I think that the packaging on this one's a little nicer. I think that the styrofoam is the same material, styrene, but the thing about this styrofoam is it seems like the grain is a little smaller, and it feels finer in the hands, and just it feels like it's molded a little better. The one on the M1, does it really matter? I mean, it seems like the grain is larger. It feels more flexible. I feel like this one wouldn't chip as easy as the one on the S1. But it's not about the box, it's more about the helicopter. So let's take them out. I'm gonna compare them, and I'm gonna set them side by side so that you guys can see the differences, because there is a size difference between the two. Material wise, there are no differences material wise. These things are all both composed of aluminum, carbon fiber, brushless motors, and what is it? The main blades are plastic. They're a composite of, I think, fiberglass or something. There's a mixture, a composition of the same. They're very durable blades, at least from what I found. And yeah, I mean, tail blade's the same. You got a molded plastic tail fin. I mean, plastic tail blade, and the tail fins are actually made of carbon fiber. And yeah, so I mean, the design is pretty much the same. I'll jump right into it, like I said, once I take the canopy off. All right, both of them side by side here. You have the M1 and the S1 side by side, from blade grip to blade grip, all the way to the tail. You can clearly see that the M1 is a bit longer, about, I'd say, maybe, I don't know, maybe closer to a little over a quarter inch longer from the tail. And then you have the nose sticking out a bit more on the OMPM one. Now, with that said, I mean, you can also kind of see, I believe the blade grips are the same. I mean, the main blades are the same size, but it does appear that the ones on the S1 are thinner in width. They may be the same length. I'm not sure. I haven't measured them. They appear to be the same length. And then another thing you can see is you can quickly notice this is one of the biggest differences between the two is the M1 sports a beefier main head. You can see that the blade grip arms are much beefier, and where the DFC link attaches to is much beefier. Like I said, the arm is beefier in comparison to the one on the S1. And like I said, both of these helicopters are, designed very well. They use high-end materials, and I don't think, just by the looks of it, they weren't designed on a compromise. I mean, they try to build it, to give you the most that they could. I mean, for the money, it doesn't matter which one you get, you're going to get a lot for the money. And because we can compare that to like I said, the Blade one Infusion 120, you're gonna get linear servos. You're gonna get a plastic frame, plastic, everything. And at this point, I can't really include the Infusion 120, and that's only for one reason. I mean, they're not built the same. This is more for an advanced pilot and a beginner pilot, for no one who's never ever flown in their life. This is for you. I mean, and the same is, they're all the same. The consumer market that they're choosing is for pretty much everybody, professionals to experienced pilots to full-blown beginners. I mean, it doesn't really, I don't think there's a helicopter in this time where it's only for one group. I think most helicopters now are for pretty much everyone, except larger helicopters like maybe 700 size, 600, all the way down to maybe 450. But even then, they have fly barless units that you can make them just as easy to fly as these would, because you can set up stability mode. So, but it just comes down to money and price and parts and crashability, and that's what I'm going to talk about first. Crashability. I found that the M1 is a little better to crash. Like I said, those blade grips on the S1, they tend to bend, and since both of these don't have adjustable links, well, you have to replace that blade grip, otherwise your blade tracking is off after a crash. I also found that the boom, if you can see in the video, the boom on the OMPM1 seems to be taller. Width wise, they seem to be the same actually. They seem to be the same. I think that in person the boom on the M1 is a bit wider on the top, but then again it gets very thin at the bottom, so it should be wider at the top. So to me, it might be the same thing in diameter. I'm not gonna measure that because that's just pointless and it's a lot of work. See, the boom on this one's a rectangle shape. It's wide all around. But because of Goosky's taller design, I feel like it can handle a crash, vertical crash, when you're digging the boom into the grass. I found that the one on the S1 tends to bend and break. I mean, I've always, had experiences with my M1 where I crash and the boom just snaps or bends over. Not a big deal because they're very cheap in price. So I'm not gonna jump into that in too much into detail, as a bargain to get one over the other. Like I said, these helicopters are not built on a compromise, in my opinion. I mean, they gave you a lot for your money, and they continue to. The S1 blade grip issue has been addressed by Goosky. They released a new blade grip to update your current one, and anything moving forward that you buy as far as an S1 in a kit package, whatever's new will come with the updated blade grips, as far as I'm aware. But yeah, I mean, that's something, at least, it shows that they are listening. And yeah, let me take the canopies off so you guys can see the frames, and then I'll do some flying after. But yeah, here, anyways, the canopies, like I said, they're both made of plastic, very durable plastic. I do like that the S1 has that opening for the battery. You don't have to remove the canopy at all, and it's really cool, But I don't know. I mean, I've never crashed this thing forward, going really fast. Maybe the battery will fly out. Who knows? It hasn't happened to me yet, but I guess we'll find out. That's one thing to consider. If you're crashing really fast into a tree, what if the battery flies right out? The friction fit on both of these, I mean, for both of these helicopters, the batteries are friction fit. There are no trays, no straps. They're friction fit. The battery dimensions are different, so you cannot use one in the other. You have to buy a proprietary battery size for this. Now you have many manufacturers out there that provide batteries for each of these. Like Gen A's will make a battery for each of these helicopters that fits the way it should, tight. And the OMPM1 canopy is the same. It's painted. It's plastic. It's a very durable canopy. I've crashed these on concrete, and you know what? They don't break. They're pretty durable. They may crack, but you can still use them as beaters, and that's what it comes down to, man. Having a good canopy, good helicopter that can take the abuse. So here we have them side by side again without the canopies on. You can really see how much smaller the goosky S1 looks, and I think the design looks a lot more adorable on the S1 just because of the way it sits. It's kind of stubby. It's very small. The form factor is really tiny. It's not like the M1. The M1 looks like it's very full of things. Like it's compact. It's got a bunch of things going on. And you know what? It's the same stuff on this. The same setup. You got the flybarless unit up top. You got the ESC at the bottom. It's sandwiched together, and you got the connections for the motor and the tail motor in the same side. You can see that they both bolt up with screws, Phillips screws. You can see on the left side, on the right side, you'll have your connection for the brushless tail motor, and the same as as the M1. The servo layout's pretty much the same. It's technically the same layout. You have your left aileron servo at the front, servo pointing to the back. You can see that the swash plate is pretty much the same. Everything's the same. I believe the main shaft is the same diameter. Yes, it is. You got your elevator servo pointing towards the back at the same angle. These servos are the same servo, by the way. They are using the same servo. They just attach their own sticker. And it appears that they are. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but it's the same servo. I mean, just by looking at it, they're both metal geared servos. You guys can get the aluminum ones for these. They do have a full aluminum cased servo. And then you have your right aileron servo, and you have it mounted the same way. Of course, the frame is the same, but everything mounts the same. I'm not sure. I mean, if I had to guess, they probably are using the same manufacturer, CNC. Whoever's building them for them, it's got to be the same people. It looks the same. They almost fly the same, but they don't. So that's what's gonna be the next thing that I'm gonna focus on, because you do get a few differences in these helicopters, like I said, but it's not gonna be a whole lot. Like for example, this one, the battery connects up at the top, and it's soldered on the board, and your battery will mount in that tray, which is also friction fit. They use O-rings to hold the battery tight to the frame. Here they use like a more to me it's a cool design, but it's a plastic frame. They're adopting more plastic in this one, and it's got like this little raised, like a tab that presses up on the battery. And this one has rubber O-rings. I think that the rubber O-rings are easier to service because it's just two screws at the front. Remove that little rod, replace the O-rings, put it back on. And with that said, O-rings are rubber and they grip better. I think those hold better. At least I found that to be true when I compared it to my goosky S2 and the OMP M1 M2 Evo that I have. The battery holds much better on the OMP. So, not to say that it's a problem. I haven't had any of these batteries fall out, and I have not heard anyone's battery falling out in flight. So I guess we can overlook that. And the connector on the battery on the S1 is at the bottom, which is pretty cool. But in my opinion, if I crash this one, sometimes I like to fly without a canopy. And if I tend to crash this one in the nose crash, I'm gonna rip that connector right out. but at least from the looks of it, um, it's an easier to replace connector that won't damage the circuit board because there are cables that run up to the top board. And if you're good at soldering, I mean, you don't that's not really a big problem. But try soldering and desoldering a connector on the PCB. That's going to be much more difficult. You're going to require to replace that entire ESC, which I've had to already, just because I don't like running the risk of a connector having a bad solder joint because I crashed and and whatnot. So that's one thing you can consider. Setting up these helicopters, tuning them is the same thing, same run around. I mean, you press a few buttons, you hold, and with your radio, you kind of get it to do what you want, more pitch, less pitch. I can do a video separate from this, but setting them up is the same. You with this one, you get a Bluetooth module in the package already. With the OMP, you can buy it separately. So that's another thing you get. I think that goosky gives you a little more for your money, just a little more. But then again, like I said, OMP also gives you a lot, and these are things that essentially you don't really need to fly the helicopter. It flies really good out of the box, and I don't think you really need much. The S1 is flying on its ready to fly radio. The M1, I have it on DSMX, so you can fly it on both. So if you do have these and you do have the ready to fly, you can use the radio from the goosky to fly the M1. It's the same thing, SFHS. You can fly it, it's no problem. Now, flight characteristics. And actually, you know what? Before I move on, let me just point out one more thing about the tail boom on this one. The goosky does seem to use a bit more plastic in its construction, and in its, with what they went for on the tail boom. They went with this like plastic composite, fiber composite mount for the tail boom mount. And what I found is that it's very durable, it doesn't break, but it is plastic. I mean, you get a nice machined piece on the OMPM one. It's a bit heavier, but it doesn't really compromise anything. It flies a little heavier, which feels good in the air, to be honest, but it requires a little higher head speed. The S1 doesn't. That's why I recommend it for indoors a little more, because with the lower head speed, it performs well, and it's a lower head speed, which is safer for indoors, hitting a wall. I have vinyl floors. You don't want to cause too many damages into your home, inside, of course, and it's a nicer, more comfortable, less intimidating helicopter in the end. Moving back to the tail again, the tail motor on this one's a bit larger. I feel that the larger motor can spool up faster and spool down faster. Um, and it has better tail control, which I have found flying this, that the S1 has a better responding and correcting tail. It's faster, it's quicker, it's more locked in, and it doesn't blow out like the M1 does at from time to time. They both fly great though. I mean, it's not a night and day difference. Now, where there is a night and day difference is when you come to land and you try to do an auto land. I'm used to just cutting my throttle and landing all my helicopters. For the most part, all my other helicopters are belted drive. And with that said, the tail is still controlling and stabilizing the helicopter yaw. So when you come to land, you can still control the tail on the way down. When you cut the power to the M1, it spins out because you cut all power to that tail motor. So it torques to the left and it just spins out, and you're not really, it's not too nice to land that way. You have to kind of just really throttle down and cut off the throttle at when you're already on the ground. I mean, I still land that way. It doesn't matter, but because for the most part, it doesn't tip over. It's just that it's not too. I just don't like it. I don't really desire that characteristic, especially knowing that the S1 you can cut off throttle and it still lands smooth. You can kind of auto with this one. Maybe it's because that motor is a little bigger. It can maintain a rotation and it just kind of holds a bit before it completely shuts off. Maybe they can do that for the S1 at some point. But yeah, I mean, like I said, the S1 is most likely my go-to because it's smaller. It comes in a ready-to-fly kit with a more compact box. I think that the radio that comes with the S1 is a little larger, so you might have a bigger package there. I've never purchased the ready-to-fly M1, but here I'm gonna fly it real quick so you guys can get an idea. But yeah, it's the same helicopter, same build. Even the font, everything is pretty much the same. I think it just comes down to preference. But let me show you some flight characteristics when you come to land and just flying around. I think that the goosky is a little more locked in. It's a little bit. It feels more robotic, like as if it were flying on rails. It really holds its position very well. The S1 also, the M1 also flies really well. Just like I said, though, it does feel a little heavier and bigger, and it's a higher head speed. All right, so I'm gonna set this up real quick. Sorry, I don't have a tripod, but I'm gonna try to fly them right here. See if I can get you guys a good picture. All right, so we're gonna start off with the goosky. Kind of just show you how it kind of lands. And I'm gonna use the goosky radio for this, for them just to make it easier. I don't have to switch over radios. Where's the battery pack on this? Oh, and here's the battery differences. You see, this one's more narrow, one's wider. It just won't work. The goosky one will work on the M1, but the M1 battery will not work on the goosky. It's just too wide. It's taking a while. They both do the same servo initialization. And pretty same thing. It's pretty much the same thing. But here's just nice takeoff. Here's the S1 by goosky. Very silent, very quiet, very smooth. So let me see if you guys can see this in the video. I'm gonna try to do it so that I can land it for you guys so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Let's see if I can get this right. Okay, that should do better. Alright, so I'm gonna land it near the chimney. And I'm gonna cut throttle. And I need you to see that this is what I'm talking about. Indoors is much nicer to kind of just, it's more desirable to fly this one indoors just because it feels more tame and more controllable. This battery's dead. Let's change the battery. Excuse me, I just have to change the battery out. This sucks. Okay, so alright, here's a fresh pack. I know this one's charged. And I'll fly it with the canopy after this, that way you can get a nice visual as to how it flies. So I'm gonna cut throttle hold on this one. As you can see here, I'm cutting it now. So just pay attention to how the tail holds and how the helicopter just drops. you can notice that it doesn't go into a spin. It lands more like a belted drive helicopter. It holds its tail just enough so you can have a nice auto land. And I feel like because of that, I have not tried it, but I feel like if I do an auto on this one, it'll probably do it just because of that feature. I'll do it again at higher head speed. It doesn't really spin out like the M1 does. Yeah, so very cool. You can fly it around, do whatever it is you need to do. The stability mode on these are pretty much feel the same. And let me hover it closer to you guys right here. This radio feels pretty nice. It's very responsive. It does very well. So let's put the canopy on. That way you can see how it looks with the canopy. Let's see this. There she is with the canopy. It appears, resembles a little Saab raw. But you know what? They make it their own design. They don't really just copy everything they see. I think Goosky does it a little better than they do. I'm not too big of a fan of the Saab helicopters, just because, you know, in my opinion, they only focus on advanced pilots. They don't really focus on beginner pilots. And when it comes down to it, I think a company that supports everyone in the process of becoming a pilot is probably what I'll go with. You know, I just, I don't know. That's my opinion. But here's how it flies, how it looks with the canopy. I won't fly the M1 too much because the throttle curve is set up. It's not a linear curve, so as I go up on the stick, it pulls up more, and it makes it pretty hard flying indoors. Here's the tail control. It feels very robotic. It flies like a dragonfly at this point. Very nice helicopter. I mean, this is probably the one I recommend. Ouchies. But yeah, look, so this one here, parts, I've had an issue where they're not as readily available as you would find with OMP. I mean, you just go to Buddy RC and you can get all the parts you need and get a pretty big stock and you'll be okay. Like I just crashed it right now, and the blades, everything just seems lighter. Like it doesn't really strike as hard as the M1 does. And here it is flying again. I mean, nothing's really, you know, really durable, like I said. There it battery's dying. There it is. Really smooth helicopter. I recommend it. This is one option for you guys. Is it the best option? I mean, that's for you to decide. I think indoors, get this one. If you guys want something a little beefier that's micro, get the M1. It feels more premium. I mean, you got more aluminum in it. It feels heavier is what I'm saying. They're both just as premium. I mean, they're made the same. I don't know. Get both. I got both. Why not? Get the best of both worlds by getting both. Like I said, if you get the M1, you're gonna have that tail issue. You get the S1, you won't have that. But then again, you know, you can't really use the blade grip issue anymore because they've addressed that. So I think your best option is just to get both. Here's the M1. I'm just gonna demonstrate the landing with hold. So I'm gonna land with hold now so you guys can see what I mean. I'm gonna cut the motor now. This goes into a spin. And that was pretty mild actually. It actually looks more like this. Oh, that's not what I wanted to show you. But anyways, here's my blade's a bit too tight. So let me show you. What it looks like when you hit hold on this one. It just spins out. I don't really like that. I'm not a big fan of that. Well, I guess today it's doing a little better, but for the most part, it'll spin out on you, and it's kind of annoying when it comes to land like that. That's what I'm talking about. So, I mean, it's all preference, but I think for indoors, you're better off with the S1. The M1 is just as good for indoors, but you do have to deal with when you hit throttle hold, I guess. I mean, I don't know. To me, I have these floors. I mean, I probably scratched them now. I just put them. They're vinyl floors, and the last thing I want is to scratch my floors, you know, because it went into a spin. Because these carbon fiber tails, they're pretty sharp. I mean, you'd have to round it off a bit. The blades are pretty smooth on the tips, so I don't really see if you'd get many scratches out of that. But like I said, you can avoid all that with the S1. Or you don't care, just get the M1. So that's my video. I mean, I hope you guys kind of got a better idea of what you guys want. You guys are going to get the same thing in both of them. Two major differences is auto landing by hitting hold. That's one. The second one being just size. I mean, the S1's a little smaller, lighter. Like I said, the head speed is going to be affected too, because if it's lighter, you need less head speed to do what you can do with the S1, with the M1. And that's it. I mean, everything else is the same. Motors are the same. The frames are constructed the same. The swash plate, the main head, blade grips are the same. Links, plastic. You got the same servo horn balls. You got the same fly barless unit. Landing gear is the same material. it's all the same. Just the two things that I pointed out. One's lighter, so the head speed might be slower, which is better. And the tail, one's more responsive. So just keep all those things in mind and just kind of go from there. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.